Welcome to the D-Shift podcast, where we provide inspiration, motivation, and education to help you transition from the challenges of divorce to discover the freedom and ability to live life on your own terms. Are you ready? Let's get this shift started. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the D-Shift. And today I get to talk to a fellow divorce coach, which is always a great conversation. And I'm going to be speaking with Julie Desmond. She is the founder of Desmond Divorce Coaching. And Julie is a DCA certified ADR divorce coach specializing in helping clients navigate conflict. So, Julie, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It's always great to talk, like I said, to talk to another divorce coach, because I think we tend to be pretty much on the same page when we're talking about, how to support people going through divorce. But before we get into all of that, and that's the important stuff, but even more important is for people to get to understand a little bit more about you and why you're focused on helping people through this very difficult time in life.
Okay, so yes, I do like to help people when it's like one of the worst times that people can go through, and having my own bad experience, I'll just put it like that. After I had recovered and got on my own 2 feet, I then wanted to find a way to help others because it was kind of bad how I went through it with no support, calling attorneys who really weren't there for me on the emotional side of it, and no family help really in the States. So I kept thinking, how can I help people? And then I came across divorce coaching and thought, yeah, this is what I want to do. I really want to help people get through it.
And one of the things that you did, which I admire, I'm a big supporter of, if you're going to be helping people through these big life transitions, we really need to be educated as to what we're doing. So I so appreciate that you are certified through the DCA, that's the Divorce Coaching Academy, right?
Divorce Coaches Academy. It was a very rigorous training, and let me tell you, they don't pass just anybody for their certification. So you have to have everything completed, practice sessions done. So, and it was a lot to learn, but it was great. I enjoyed every moment. Yeah.
Yeah. I really enjoyed my training too. And again, it's that difference of working with somebody who has been through a situation and has got training and is able to support other people through that. I'm always a little concerned. I know this is a bit off topic, but I'm always concerned with the number of people who are now marketing themselves as a divorce coach that really have no background. Maybe they've been through a bad divorce, but just because you had your appendix out doesn't mean you should go operate on other people.
Right.
That's kind of the way. I mean, and there are some huge decisions that people are going to be making, and bad advice can end up costing you tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime if you mess up on some of those, strategic negotiations.
Yeah. And I hear that a lot, and that is why I'm proud to be from Divorce Coaches Academy.
Right. Yeah, I love their podcast too. They have a fantastic podcast. I listen to that quite often. So Julie, let's jump into this whole idea of divorce coaching. And again, every divorce coach is going to have a slightly different approach and a slightly different way of handling this. But talk from your experience and from your perspective. What does that look like for your clients, and what are some of the benefits that you see to having a divorce coach?
Okay, that's a good couple of questions there. So I do think my foundation from the DCA training is in alternative dispute resolution. So we focus on keeping conflict out as much as possible, which, if you think about it, conflict causes more conflict, which can cause costs to rise with attorneys, people battling against each other. So if I work with a client who they may not necessarily be the one they think creating the conflict, but reacting to somebody else being combative or conflictive, I help them navigate that to de-escalate conflict in their responses. For example, if someone says something that they don't like, take a moment, take a moment, think, don't fire off the first text that you think you want to. Take a moment, take a pause. You can answer that text in an hour if you feel like it, when you've calmed down way to respond. And it is hard. I'm not going to say it's easy, and, work with some clients and a few months in, they're like, I finally did it. I finally waited. So, it takes to change their mindset a little bit also.
Yeah, and that whole idea of not being reactive and being responsive, that's a big one. And there are obviously there's different types of conflict that can come up, and I tend to work specifically with the really high conflict situations. And so for my clients, I will say to them, like, get another phone and use that, transfer everybody but your ex from your old phone to that new phone, and do not give your ex that new phone number.
Right, right.
Keep it on that phone, and, shut the ringer off. You're going to pick it up and look at it at a specific time. And other than that, unless unless they have your kids, and then obviously there's emergency.
Right, emergency. And so I do something similar with the emails to my clients. I'm like, don't read that email before you're about to go to sleep.
Right.
At night, or don't read it before you're walking into work. Set some side of time where you've got a few minutes, if you do get a little bit annoyed or upset, that you can process it without going, without ruining your evening or your afternoon or your work schedule.
Right. So let's talk about the cost savings that you can see. And again, we're not here guaranteeing that anybody's going to save any particular amount of money or whatever may be happening. This is for educational and informational purposes only. However, with that being said, having somebody do the divorce coaching part can end up saving you in stress and money. So can you talk a little bit to that, Julie?
Yeah, sure. I tell my clients that I can usually help them save time and money.
Yeah.
And really it's in them being prepared. If you think about it, an everyday person has been married for 20 years, never been through divorce. They don't know what to expect. They don't know what it's like going into a courthouse. They don't even know what it means to file a motion, all things like this. So if they come to a coach, I can guide them through what to expect, what the steps are, and answer any questions if they say, for example, they're preparing for mediation, which also will save money rather than going to a final hearing in a courthouse. So really, I would say I'm more, as well as, the conflict de-escalation, I'm there to prepare my clients, which a lot of people don't even realize that you need to be prepared.
Yeah.
Until, maybe they look back and they're like, I could have done things differently. But if you are prepared, it can make you be aware of what's coming. So nothing is in a shock, motions filed, or the attorney wants a financial affidavit, things like that. And then I can guide them where to find them, how to fill out these forms. So it's not them making a phone call to their attorney that could be way more hundreds of dollars than working for an hour with me.
Right.
So, the key, I think, is preparation.
Yeah. And I think, just again, I know people that have listened to this have heard me say this many, many times, but as a divorce coach, we don't provide any kind of legal advice. But,
No.
If you got a financial affidavit sitting there and you don't know what line 7 means, whatever might be on line 7, you can call the attorney and speak to the attorney or the paralegal, and you need to know what your billable hours, because every time they pick up the phone, you're getting billed for it. Or there may be the option to sit with a divorce coach, and typically we do most of our work virtually. And it's like, okay, well, what does that mean? Okay, well, let's, where can you find out what that information?
Where can you find the answer? Exactly.
Because it's not like we're interpreting. Divorce coaches don't tell you what to put on the forms, but it can be so helpful just to have somebody to say, like, they want all of this information. Where am I going to find any of this? Because you have most of it. It's just you're not sure where to look for it.
Right.
Yeah.
And some people are completely in the dark.
Right.
Of where, Google is an amazing thing these days. And, but, even bank statements. I've worked with clients like, I don't even know, like, how much is in the bank.
Right.
How do I find that out?
Right. Right.
So,
And sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's really hard because maybe you're dealing with somebody who has been keeping you intentionally out of the financial picture. And you may find out when you go to your bank and whether you're online or whether you actually go into the branch, not many people do that anymore, but let's say you do actually go in, you may have come to the harsh reality of knowing that you're not even on those accounts. You're only a signature on the accounts. You are not an account holder. So you go to your
right.
bank and what you think is your joint account because it looks like it on your checks, both of your names are on the checks. You go to the bank and the bank says, you're not the account holder. We can't provide you that information. That is shocking. And so it's okay having somebody to tell you it's okay, there's other ways to get this information, this is what you need to tell your attorney, and you can still give them all the account numbers and then they can subpoena or
Right.
file a motion to compel that other person to provide. Yeah.
Right. But that is one instance where they will probably need us for emotional support
Right.
more than the practical at that time. You know, like you said, it's shocking when they find that out and they come to us upset because it was news to them.
Right. Well, I had one client, and I don't know if you've had this experience, but I had one client where she filed the motion for divorce. She attorneyed up right off the bat, and I was like, "Oh no!" Then she called me afterwards. He was served at his place of work, which I am going to say, if your partner doesn't know the divorce is coming, serving them at work is only going to cause even more problems because now they're embarrassed and they're mad and they're
Mad.
humiliated at their workplace. But anyhow, he and instantly, like I don't know how it wasn't instantly, but within a half an hour, she had all her credit cards were dead. She couldn't use any of her credit cards. All the bank accounts were locked up. Her checkbook, she couldn't write a check. He had put a stop thing on her on any check
Right.
she might issue. She had literally no access to money. And that could have been avoided had things been planned and
Planned and
prepared.
prepared. I'm
Not
just going to say she was
Yeah,
not prepared for that.
right,
So,
right,
yeah.
yeah,
Working with a divorce coach, helps you get a strategy
right,
in plan. And it's not to be deceitful, it's
right,
just to protect yourself
right.
because you don't know what's going to happen when the person is filed. Like that's a prime example there.
And it depends on where you're living. And I realize people listening to this are living in all different parts of the world. Even in the United States, where I am now, or in Canada, it depending on when you take money out, what you do with money. If you move it out of a joint account, you can face some really significant consequences for doing that. The days of grabbing all the money and squirreling it away.
Right.
Uh, it's harder and harder to do that now with all the electronic
Right. Everything's
access.
so traceable.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I've had people that have done that have thought, well, I'm going to file for divorce, so I'm going to start siphoning money out of the joint fund. Well, you can do that. It's your joint account, but you're still accountable for all that money you take out. And there's a transaction record that it came out.
Right. Right. That
So
it was there and now it's not. So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And that works both ways.
Right.
That works for both parties,
Yeah.
both people involved. So, Julie,
Absolutely.
this is really this is really important to understand that it's a lot of it is that preparation and knowing what's going to happen next. And again, having somebody to say, is that really in your best interest? And have
Right.
people think through, and if you
Yeah.
don't know the answer, who do you need to talk to? Maybe you should ask your attorney before you move that money from the joint account out. And
100%.
that's all good use of your attorney time.
Yes. Yes. But that's one quick question, right?
Right.
You're not going to be on the phone crying to them. So, and I also like to prepare my clients for that. If they are going to have a call with an attorney, make sure they have their list ready of
Yes.
specific questions to ask. So it's quick and efficient, time efficient.
Yeah, and even that, just having those questions to keep that conversation focused, because your attorney is not your therapist, and good attorneys will kind of shut you down if you get too emotional. They're just going to say, "Look, this is not productive use of your time. When you feel you're able, I'm going to get off the phone now because this is costing you money." And you need to know what is that increment of time your attorney is billing you.
Right.
6 minutes, 12
6 minutes.
minutes.
Yeah.
What is it? Half hour? Who knows?
Right. Keep track as well. Keep track on your end. That's
Yeah.
what I tell my clients.
And even things, so I've run into this with a few of my clients now, where attorneys are now having there's a flat fee every time they open an email or a text message. So again, what is it like?
What is that fee?
If you're
Yeah.
when I went through my divorce, I have to tell you this. This was like 30 years ago, so there was no such thing as divorce coaches. But my attorney said, "Hey, if you have any questions, just call me." And I took advantage of that for the first month until I got this
You
statement.
didn't realize.
No, because it wasn't, I mean, he wasn't disingenuous or he wasn't
Right.
sneaky. He just,
That
he
was his
just
job.
assumed I realized and I
Right.
didn't. So yeah, you just never know.
A lot of people don't realize. And also, getting back to they charge per email. That's why I say to my clients, don't fire off emails every 2 minutes.
Right.
Go a few days or once a week.
Yeah.
If it's necessary, put your list down once a week so he's got that one email for the week recapping what's happened or what you think is going to happen. So it's
And
just all in one email.
Yes, that's a wonderful piece of advice, Julie. And I think the other thing is that your attorney deals with legal issues. Your attorney doesn't deal with your ex sent your kids back with their clothes dirty instead
Dirty
of
laundry.
washed. Or
Right.
you sent your kids with a $50 sweater and they came back with something that looks like the dog slept in it that you've never seen before. At- your attorney doesn't care about that stuff. I'm sorry. And the court doesn't care
No,
about
not at all. But it's so hard when you're going through it
Right.
to realize that.
Right.
Like, why don't they care? This was the biggest deal ever that they came back with dirty laundry in the whole grand scheme of thing. When you look back, it's not, but when you're in it,
Yeah.
it is a big deal. So
Yeah.
that's when they need to come to us
Right.
for the court to talk them down,
It's a reality check, right?
Right.
And sometimes I'm a little bit abrupt with my clients and I just say, okay, is this worth $500 for a billable hour to discuss this with your attorney?
Right.
And your attorney's going to
Right.
say, there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
Do you want
I
that
don't
kind of-
call it. I don't call it being abrupt. I call it a love shove.
Yes. That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Julie, we touched on something here, that idea of having a divorce coach as your safe space, maybe to express some of these feelings that are coming up. How does that actually help a person going through divorce to have that?
I think it helps a lot because, there's obviously a lot of emotions involved. But I do find a lot of the time when someone's getting divorced and they turn to family, whatever they're venting to the family tend to agree and take their side. So what was a little flame, will get ignited into a bigger flame and make everyone a little bit more heated. But I find coming to a divorce coach totally neutral to the outcome, they can vent, that it's a safe space. But also, like you said before, it's reality testing, because are things that bad because the kids came back with the dirty laundry? Whereas if, say, I had a female client and she told her mother, oh my God, he sent them back with dirty laundry, the mother is going to say, well, he should never do that. How dare he?
Right.
But coming to a divorce coach, we can calm things down. We can talk through things, no judgment. And I'm neutral. I'm not going to be on his side. I'm not going to be on her side saying, yes, he never should have done that. Let's just look at it. Did your child come home safe?
Right.
Did your child come home happy? So what? You got to do one extra load of laundry.
Right.
Is that the end of the world?
It really is that big picture. And you're right. When we're going through divorce, especially when there's kids involved, that can be such a disorienting experience. Maybe if you've been mom to your kids or dad to your kids for 12 years and their primary caregiver, and now all of a sudden you don't have them, you don't see them for a week in the summer, that can be pretty distressing for people.
Awful. Yeah, very much so. And it makes the client or the person getting divorced, question their self-worth.
Right.
You know, I've been a mum, but they're gone for a week and now I'm not a mum.
Right.
But you're always the mum. You're always the dad, just because they're not with you. You know, and that's what I try to tell my clients. Don't think of it like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're with the other parent. You will always be the parent, you know, the mother or the father, and they're coming back.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Now, Julie, I know we wanted to touch on this because this is something I experience a lot with my clients, and I know that this is something you work with your clients as well. Sometimes, despite the best efforts of the couple to go through an amicable divorce, because they just know the relationship is not going to make it, or one person just cannot stay in the relationship any longer for whatever reason. But there can be external factors that really make it tough to get out of that relationship. So I'm just going to throw out there that a lot of the religious beliefs and faiths, practices can really create this extra layer of complexity for people trying to get a divorce in some areas. Can you talk a little bit to that?
yeah, sure. And 100% it can make it more difficult. So, first of all, you know, they want to divorce their partner. But if people are involved in a religious community, it's a lot of time spent, you know, gatherings, families spending time with other families in the same kind of religious aspect. So it's not just you're going to divorce your partner, but you're kind of divorcing a community as well, because it's very hard to stay in the community in some instances where the client or the person asking for the divorce feels like they're not going to be so welcome now because they're going through a divorce. So that's an added layer of pressure that people find. I do work with a lot of clients under these circumstances, and just really, again, the emotional support for them, and say, you know, either you can work on staying in the same community or look at your options. You know, join newer, different communities, a little town, one town over, where you can start afresh. Things like that, where people are not going to maybe judge you if you came in as a divorcee, or they don't know what happened in your past. It is very, very difficult, because it's like they're not only losing a partner, but they also feel like they're losing friends and community as well, because there's a lot of people siding, you know, taking sides.
Right. And faith can be a really strong, a really strong thing in people's lives. And sometimes it can sort of be weaponized against a person who wants to leave an unhealthy relationship, or, you know, no longer satisfying relationship.
Right. Yes.
That always concerns me, because quite often, you know, they do feel like they have nobody to talk to, because they don't get support from, maybe, you know, if everybody in the community is of the same faith, you can't talk to your neighbors, and you can't talk to your religious leader, and you can't talk to, and so even though you've grown up in this faith, now all of a sudden none of the resources are available for you. And this could be cultural as well. It doesn't have to just be faith, and it could be a specific community or neighborhood. You know, there can be all kinds of pressure.
Right. And it doesn't mean that you don't want to continue your faith just because. So some people look at it like that, you know, like you can't get divorced in our faith, the faith that they believe in. It's not, divorce is not an option. But it doesn't mean because that person is unhappy that they don't want to believe in that faith.
Right.
You know, they still have their faith, but they need help. So if there's no one really in the community, that's another resource, is to come to a divorce coach. Like I said, again, completely neutral party, you know, and help them get through it. So, and because it is tough, you know, they feel even more alone.
Yes.
Yeah. Like
and I think sometimes this is where even like guilt and shame can really begin to erode like self-confidence in the decision. And I worked as a domestic violence client advocate for many, many years. And you know, this was back in the early, like 2010, where a lot of the emotional abuse and coercive control and stuff, we knew it was happening. We didn't really have words for it. We didn't talk about it.
Right.
But I would see situations where, you know, women or men would get the strength leave, because it takes a lot of courage to leave in these situations. They left, but then they felt so much pressure from other people that they came back, and they ended up staying in, I'm going to say, for some of my clients in the domestic violence world, it was a dangerous situation. It was life-threatening because of the abuse that they were facing. But they just felt like they were doing something so morally wrong if they left.
Wrong, right.
And that's a real burden to carry on your own.
No, that's really tough. And also, like you said, a lot of people don't think that they have the strength to move forward alone as such. So, working with a divorce coach, as you know, like, we help to empower people, get their confidence back. And yes, you can do it, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's such an uplift. I mean, that's a really positive thing. And again, it's the saving of the time, the money, and building that courage to be able to go through the divorce. And as you said, you don't have to give up one to have the other. Like, you don't have to leave everything behind. Maybe you just have to shift some things around in your world, and maybe some different priorities and values come into play.
Right. And a lot of times, the people sorry to cut you off, but a lot of times people in the community, when things calm down, they do come around.
Yes.
Also.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Julie, this is such a great, we could probably talk for a long time, but we are out of time already. I can't believe how fast these go. What do you think that you'd like to people to, when they get off this call, when they go on about their day, when they're finished with the podcast, what do you want them to remember?
We just want them to remember that if they are even thinking about divorce or in the first stages of divorce, think about divorce coaches. Maybe make that your first call rather than an attorney. Just have a conversation. You don't necessarily have to hire someone straight away, but have that in your mind that it's a person to have on your team.
Yeah. I love that idea of team. That's my goal with my clients. Is there's a few people I say, hey, and you're right. A lot of times it's just having a call. It's not even necessarily that you have to hire them for a long time. And some people offer consultation calls at no cost. They'll take a quick look. I
actually do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that way you can see if you're a good fit. And yeah.
And some people are just not ready. And some people are just not ready. And in 2 or 3 months, they'll reach out and say, I've been thinking about this.
Yeah. So, it takes a while. It's not a snap decision for most people.
Right. Exactly.
Julie, if people do want to work with you and find out more about what you do, what's the best way to reach you?
They can go on the website. It's Desmond Divorce Coaching, or email me at desmonddivorcecoaching@gmail.com.
And I will make sure that gets in the show notes. Julie,
this has been a
great conversation. I so appreciated you coming on. And like I said, it's always great to talk to another divorce coach. So
thanks
for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's been great. Thanks.
And thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of The D Shift. And don't forget to tune in to the next one. Thanks for listening and supporting the D Shift podcast. If you would like to attend live trainings by our amazing guests and have a chance to ask questions and get answers from our experts, join the D Shift crew. For more details and to sign up, head on over to www.divorcecoachforwomen and click on the podcast page.